Welcome to the MBU Football Coaches Show. I am Guy Danhoff, and I'm joined with Coach B. And Coach, last week took on a nationally ranked team, number 23 in Saint Xavier, and they came in here. I did get a chance to talk to their coach before the game, their head coach that you talked about last week's Coaches Show, and he had nothing but great things to say about our facilities, certainly the field, and everything that we've been doing to grow the program here at Missouri Baptist University. And I know you guys are friends, but I was very impressed with coming here. And just wanted to get your thoughts on Saturday's game as the Spartans lost 31-16, but in the second half, we scored 10 points and they scored 10 points. So in the second half, it was kind of a wash. So give me your thoughts overall on last Saturday's game against number 23 Saint Xavier.
Well, overall, I mean, that's a good team. We talked about that on the post-game
Right.
show. That's a very talented team. They're big. They are very athletic. They're strong. They're across the board. I think their offensive and defensive line were. I know their O-line was averaging about 6'3", 300 pounds, and
Right.
they had some big guys on the defensive line. When you match us up and line up their starters versus our starters, they're a lot bigger than us, and but I thought we went out and battled really well. It's not all just necessarily size and brute strength. We kind of build our team a little bit more on speed and stuff like that. But offensively, we did a lot of good stuff. Defensively, we didn't execute at the level that we need to execute on, and that falls on my shoulders. I think we need to do a better job just preparing them for the speed of Saint Xavier's offense. We knew that they were going to go fast, and I got to do a better job to get these guys prepared. But when we did our job, I think on both sides of the ball, we continue to show week in and week out that we can really play with any team out there. The issue becomes overcoming some of those mistakes, and how do we get better at that from just a preparation standpoint, making sure that we're tuned in at a high level and execute. Defensively, we give up a play right before the end of the half
Right.
that is a real punch to the gut, so to speak, and those are things we've got to get shored up, and ultimately we've got to make the plays. But overall, I thought we competed well. We were in the game. We gave ourselves an opportunity, and a few plays here and there. It's a different ball game, and that's really what we're trying to preach to these guys, is just not losing focus. That's the neutral mindset, just continuing
Right.
to play every play. Take it one play at a time, do your best for that play, and then let's move on to the next play.
Well, there's some really good things to actually support that, because when you look at it statistically, I know you're not the big fan of stats, but us fans are. And when you look at their total offense was 421 to our 371. They had 169 in the passing game. We had 289 in our passing game. And rushing, that was kind of the big story for them, though. They rushed for 252 yards, and Adam Venable, he had 31 carries for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think what was most alarming about him, though, he was averaging well over 7 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Not like, typically when you can say the week prior to that, where you had someone rush for 300, but you take out 2 large runs and you're left with 3 yards a carry. That was not the case this week. Venable was averaging over 7 yards a carry. And I was just wondering maybe if you could speak to that just a little bit, because I really thought you were making great adjustments in the second half because you were slowing them down. But in that first half, it just seems like they could do a lot with that running game.
Yeah, we just weren't sharp coming out the gate.
Right.
You watched that first drive, and
It was very methodical.
They just went right down the field on
Right.
us, and honestly, it just we didn't come out of the gate ready to go, and that's something that we've kind of addressed in the meeting room, and making a few adjustments in practice to make sure that we're ready, that we're tuned in. That's the bottom
Right.
line, and don't know really why that was, why that's the case, but we just weren't sharp. We just weren't
Right.
sharp enough coming in that first drive, and then obviously the first drive of the second half. When we lined up and did our job, we did a good job. Now
Yep.
Got to give credit to them again. They're a lot bigger than us up front, and the thing that is challenging for us. They're very balanced offensively.
Mm-hmm.
They're when you look at their their stats and you look at the number of their run pass ratio, it's almost 50-50.
Right.
And they've got two really talented wide receivers to go along with a great running back and a big offensive line. So, it's very challenging as a defensive coordinator and a defensive coach to prepare for a team like that, because you got to figure out, can you match up and play man-to-man?
Right.
If you can match up and play man-to-man, now you can put more hats to the run.
Right.
But if you're not going to be able to match up man-to-man, then you've got to have different answers to do that. And I think, overall, that's where we were a little bit concerned, based on some of the things that have happened in the past, giving up some deep balls and stuff like that.
Right.
We've talked a lot about just keeping the ball in the ballpark, not giving up the over-the-top pass, and I thought the guys did a really good job at that. But they put a lot of pressure on you and how you're going to schematically attack them, and hats off to them. They executed well, and when we executed well, they had a hard time going against us, and they had a hard time running the ball. They weren't passing the ball, but they are, I think, I mentioned this to you and maybe even on the post game, where Nick Saban says these offenses anymore keep me up at night because, and where he doesn't really look at stats a lot is
right.
that they're built to move the ball up and down the field.
Right.
And so, you just do the best you can and got to get stops when you can, and we just weren't quite as in tune to that as what we needed to be.
So talk to us about, Kevin Paulson and I talked about this in your post-game show, and really, if you really look at it, again, the way the second half played out, with 1 second remaining in the first half, you call a timeout. You play it as perfect as you can. You even bring Tyler Ball into the game to basically be our center fielder back there. And the fact that they still completed that pass, because there's a huge difference if that game would have been 14-6 at half. They're still going to get the ball, but it changes everything as opposed to, okay, you just gave up this big score. Now it's 21-6. Now you're going to halftime. What did you say to your team?
Well, at halftime, we just really talked about that, hey, we got to move through it, And I kind of brought the defense around and just took a minute and just kind of screamed, just kind of yelled like, dang, and just kind of and I told him, I was like, okay, I had to get that off my chest. Everybody else, if you need to, just give it a holler, and then let's move forward, but just trying to lighten them up a little bit, because they were very devastated by that. And,
right.
The whole mental aspect that's one of the reasons why we train that so hard, is that you've got to move past it. It's a difficult thing
right.
to move past. But by and large, I thought we did a pretty good job. We did not show it in that first drive,
right.
but then after that, to give up 3 points for the next 25 minutes
right.
or so of the half was pretty good. And I think we just come back to week in and week out on both sides of the ball is like, look, these are just plays we can't give up if we're going to win these games. And, the guys see it. It's not an effort thing. It comes down to executing.
Right.
Ultimately, that's going to fall on my shoulders. We've got to make sure that everybody knows their job, and I've got to do a better job of explaining it, and we work on it throughout the week. Mm-hmm. One of the issues that happened in that situation was, we were running that play with a few different guys on the field than what we do when we go through it on Friday. So,
right.
I've got to do a better job, and ultimately, when the ball's in the air, we've got to make sure we've got guys around him. What happened is he basically boxed us out and was able to make a play, and he's a big physical guy and went up and got it done. So, it's, again, one of those moments that we've got to learn from and teach off of, and it hurts when you're teaching off of it like that,
right.
when it's a lot better to say, okay, hey, we weren't perfect here, but at least we got the ball on the ground. But
right.
Not the way it broke for us right there, and ultimately we've got to start making some of our own breaks as well.
Absolutely. You look again, talk about, tails of the tape. They had 26 first downs. We had 22. On third downs, you kept them at 50%. I know you like that to be a little bit lower, but still 7 for 15 for them. We were 6 for 19. On fourth down, they were 2 for 4. We were 5 for 7, which is a stat that usually we struggle with, and that's actually very good. Time possession, we actually held the ball about 4 more minutes. I do think some of that, though, is the fact that they do run pretty fast.
Oh yeah, we were actually about 9 minutes longer than they were in time of possession, and that's key.
Yeah, sorry, I read it wrong. Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
we were kind of talking off camera, but the reality is that's part of our game plan. When they want to go so fast and they have
Right.
the playmakers they do,
Right.
we can't go out there and match them in speed. And so, ball control was something that was really important to us, so that we can keep our defense off the field, keep their offense off the field. And man, I give the offense a ton of credit because they were backed up several times,
Right.
and were able to move the ball out, hold the ball. Going back and watching, St. X had 2 possessions in the first quarter.
Right.
And really, I want to say maybe only 2 possessions in the second quarter. So that's a credit to our offense moving
Right.
the ball, and ultimately, we've got to get to where we finish those drives and put points on the board. But just occupying and chewing up the clock is a big deal as well.
Right. Josh Mullen, 24 for 50. It's got to be the most pass attempts he's ever had in his career, right?
Probably around there. I don't think even the coaches at the end realized that he had thrown the ball 50 times or we had thrown it. But again, that goes into situation of how the game played
Right.
out as we went on.
But here's some other great stats though. Okay, yes, he had the 289 in passing, he had the 1 touchdown, but you only had 1 turnover on the day. They had none, but we only had 1. I know it was kind of unfortunate it happened in the second half during a key drive, but there were no fumbles and there was only 1 turnover. I mean, so the turnover ratio, 1-0 to them. But still, that's something very manageable that you can get past. Right?
Oh yeah, that keeps you in the game.
Yeah, I was going to say that was great. Tyler Ball again playing at a very high level. 11 catches, 135 yards. He had a big touchdown. Speak to him again. I mean, he's just. I know you hate when I say he's a gamer, but he is. I mean, he's a fighter. He's a scrapper. I mean, he's getting done what he's got to get done. I mean, he lays it on the field each and every time he takes the field.
He does. And, I know that we're on his case a lot. And he's done a good job of responding and doing what we're asking him to do. And I think, from my perspective, he's got the ability to be as good as he wants to be. I think that he's got to continue as he goes through to just hone in on the details of playing that position.
Right.
As he and as a former wide receiver, I'm pretty critical on him, on because of the ability that he has. But as he continues to hone in and work things out and get more detailed in just the minute things of playing that position, I mean, he can be as good as there is in the league.
Absolutely. And here's a couple names we don't talk about too much week to week, but played huge games. I mean, Felix Pippinger had 4 catches, 63 yards, and he had that big 46-yard long pass in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. When
you were needing to drive. And Felix did a great job. You were running him out kind of like the way the Patriots kind of use James White, out in the flats and getting some really good mismatch there. Also, 2 other names that we don't talk about as much. Shane Becker. I don't think we've ever mentioned. I don't even think he had a catch prior coming into the game. No. I know Shane was targeted 4 times. He came down with 2 for 37. But the reason why I'm making a big deal about Becker is on the drive when he did score this touchdown in the second half, he had 2 big catches. And I said this on the broadcast. When they're playing 2 deep, the infamous Tampa 2, the only place you really can go to exploit it is you got to throw in front of them, but behind the linebackers. And the offensive coordinator and your team did a really nice job making that adjustment in the second half to be able to get that big score. And what do you got to say about Shane Becker? Because before that, I mean, we knew nothing about him.
Yeah, well, I mean, Shane is exactly what we talk about throughout recruiting. He's a guy that we weren't really sure where we were going to play him. He's a very tough, athletic kid. In fact, he's from Breeze, Illinois, and played at the same high school that Colin Thomas is from. And I've never been around so many people that talk him up through recruiting. Like people were texting me and emailing like crazy. Like, can't believe you got Shane. He's awesome. And when we brought him in, we didn't know, okay, are you going to be a running back, a slot? Where are we going to fit you in? We put him at slot early on, felt like that was his best opportunity. And the playbook became very cumbersome for him. It's a new position.
Right.
He hadn't been in a passing as a wide receiver before. So he is just exactly what we preach throughout the recruiting of just, put your nose to the grindstone, continue to learn what to do, continue to work hard. He started out on scout team, was giving us a great look.
Right.
Week in and week out, the starting safeties, Joe King, Jalen Calley coming up, and they're like, man, Shane prepares us so well each week. So, then we take that to the offensive staff, and it's like, we need to figure out what he can know. What does he know? How can we incorporate him? And over time, he's just continued to slowly work himself into a position. And so now as a true freshman, he's getting an opportunity. And honestly, that's what I think is missed in not just us, but in so many different programs is guys come in and they're not playing right away. They want the instant success. And so they quit working. They don't work on scout team. They quit trying to learn the playbook. And the opportunity comes and goes until the next spring. Shane's a guy who just continued to do what we asked and got his opportunity and made the most of it.
Well, you knew something was special when he made that catch right there near the goal line on a big play to obviously we scored. But when he came off the field, the amount of high fives that he was getting and headbutt, chest bumps, it was amazing to watch. And again, the reason is because the players know of the sacrifice and how much hard work he puts in every single week. And it's just great to see him. So Shane, if you're watching this, man, great job, great game. Hopefully we'll see more of you as more games come on. And certainly Gavin Cloud is not just a great punter. He actually had 3 catches for 35 yards in some key situations. Now, let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. I don't know what else we can say about Jalen Cowley. I really hope that he is a first-team All-American. He is playing at that level. Again, leads the team in tackles. He had 14 tackles again. I think it's the 4th time this season he's at double digits. 10 solo tackles. 4 assists. Zach Kern, 9 total tackles, 5 solo, 4 assists. And then, I tell you what, pound for pound, this guy's like the heavyweight champion of the world. Joe King, 8 tackles, 4 solo, 4 assists. And then you've been talking about this guy all season long, and here it is, he's up there in the leaderboard. Rook Rowe, 8 tackles, 6 solo, 2 assists. And talk about like these guys. I know there's a couple others, but talk about in particular about these guys and what they did this week as you saw it on film.
Well, those 4 guys are very consistent in what they do.
Yeah.
Obviously JC and Joe, they are really the core of the back end for sure. JC, he studies so much film. He's seen so much over the 4 years, and he just recognizes stuff so quickly, and he's a really good tackler.
Yep.
Rook is just again a consistent guy. Zach, I thought. He was a little bit up and down early on, just making sure there was a few little wrinkles that we needed to get adjusted, and that's a tough position playing that Mike linebacker because we put a lot on his plate in regards to formation recognition, communication, all that. But he showed up, and when he settled in, he had a really nice game himself. So those guys they're just consistent guys. They're tough. They know what to do. They're guys that when we talk about our 5 pillars: character, respect, competition, love, and trust. They are 5-pillar guys. Yep. And because they go out and do that and make those plays, that trust factor just goes through the roof. And they're the really core of our defense.
Well, last but not least, I think we have to say this, right? I mean, another school record was set, and O'Dane Reed, as if you were actually listening to the broadcast, our coach, we actually call it a 58-yarder. Both Kevin and I, we miscounted. I think we got overly excited. But no, O'Dane Reed kicked yet again in the 4th quarter, meaningful kick, 53 yards for school record. Although I know in the 2nd quarter he did miss that 45 yards. But the point is he keeps getting better every time you give him opportunities. And again, that 53-yarder could have easily made from 60.
Yeah, he's incredible. We put the clip up of him last Friday hitting a 70-yarder, and the thing I love is in pregame, as kind of both teams are coming out, and the head coach, we have to be out a certain amount of time, about an hour early, to meet with officials and do all the little things prior to the game. And the thing I love is while their head coach is standing there talking to the officials, he propped the ball up at 60 and knocked it through. So when we were talking about that, Coach Coe, he first asked, well, did they see it? And I'm like, oh yeah, Coach, they saw the 60. But what can you say? I mean, he's just a kicking prodigy. I mean, his leg strength is just incredible. His accuracy is incredible. For a guy who's been doing it just over a month,
Right.
it is really amazing. And he missed that one on the 45 or whatever. But,
Yeah, it's, 45. Yep.
yeah, but those are little things that we can work on throughout the offseason and get
Right.
fixed. I think the area where he's got to just continue to improve a little bit is on the hashes,
Right.
and making sure. But you have a swirling wind, and it plays with it a little bit. But I'm not going to tell him anything because he's doing a great job. So it's a weapon, I mean,
Yep.
the ability to put points on the board in those situations is a big deal, and he does a great job at it.
Well, I've said this, unlike years past, I mean, you really have two major weapons. I mean, Reed can kick from 60, we know that for a fact, or technically 70, but there's a little difference with the rush coming on you.
Yeah.
But certainly 60. And of course, Claude, what more can you say about him? He's got 10 fair catches of his 27 punts, and he's pinned it inside the 20 at least 10 times. I mean, his stats are phenomenal, being a huge weapon for you. Or even when he had to kick into the wind, he was doing a more low-line drive, not returnable, getting the favorable bounce and making it go into, or maybe it's not inside the 20, but it's right there around the 20. So he's really helping out the team a lot in terms of the other team's field position. So, Coach, it was just really exciting to see, Reed hit that one, again, another school record. So now the Spartans, you started off the season, you went 3-0, and the team just was kicking it in all three phases of the game. And now that you've run into some ranked teams, again, turnovers have been a big story of a lot of those games. But, the last two games against the ranked opponents, I mean, completely in the game, down to the wire. Again, to your point, one play here or one play there. And again, it could be, a Spartan wins. And this week, I know you're not playing the highest ranked team like Marion was ranked at the time, but you're going to go to Bourbonnais, Illinois for a noon start kickoff. And you're going to be playing Olivet Nazarene. They're 4-2. They're 2-1. They actually beat the team that you just faced, Saint Xavier, 2 weeks ago, 45-38. However, this past week at home, they got upset at home on their turf by St. Ambrose, which we play the last game of the season, and they lost 17-10. And I'm just going to say this to you. I think Olivet is one of those programs that has been building and building and building. They average 430 yards of total offense every week, nearly 300 yards passing. And this is a team, to me, is not looking just to win the conference. They're looking to win a national title. And with that being said, what I think is going to be, the most challenging opponent you're going to face, and that's saying something because you've already played Marion. What are your thoughts on Olivet as you've seen them on film?
Well, they're a very good team. They're a very
Yeah.
good program. You mentioned, several years ago, Olivet was, middle of the road in our league.
Right.
And maybe a little bit more towards the bottom as we were kind of starting out. They brought in Coach Eric Heyman, who's been there now for 4 or maybe 5 years, and he's really done a good job. They've really invested a lot into their football program there,
Right.
in regards to scholarship money and kind of reworking what they wanted out of that team. And Coach Heyman's delivered. They've got tremendous athletes across the board. Last year, they had the Defensive Player of the Year in our league, the
Right.
Offensive Player of the Year in our league. That both those guys are back now. Their quarterback, who was Offensive Player of the Year, had a knee injury against Saint Xavier, so he's right now on the shelf. But they've got great wide receivers. They're big up front.
They're very big up front.
They're very athletic up front. They're a lot like St. X in that sense.
Right.
So, we've got our work cut out for us. They've got a really good team. I think you watched the St. Ambrose game, and St. Ambrose, it just shows the parity in our league,
Mm-hmm.
right? You want to talk about a game where you can't make mistakes. Last week Olivet turned the ball over 4 times, and they get upset at home.
Right.
We've seen that, ourselves.
Here, right.
Yeah, whether it's here or even at St. Francis. But
Right.
those turnovers make a difference. It's very rare where you turn the ball over that many times and you're able to win the game, but like we were against Madonna. So we've got to continue to be very disciplined. They challenge you in a lot of ways with how they attack you on offense. And
Right.
I think offensively, from our standpoint, that there are some things we can take advantage of. But we've got to go out and be close to perfect in all three phases and play at an extremely high level. I know we're capable of it. I know these guys are hungry to kind of avenge some of the mistakes that we've made last week and the last couple of weeks. But it's a gauntlet. Our league has a lot of parity, but there's a lot of really good football teams, and week in and week out, you've got to go play mistake-free football. And we have a number of young guys at some positions, but they're growing up fast, and we just continue to chip away and take 1 week at a time and get better.
Well, I know one thing, at least from when you played them last year, you're not going to have any heaters.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was...
Unlike for our very first game at Spartan Field,
Yeah.
we need generators and heaters and -3 wind chill.
That was something, and then we went and played them 2 weeks later at their place, and that one came down to the wire as well.
It did.
Where
It did.
Again, a turnover
Yeah.
affected us, but our athletes understand the work that it takes in this league. They understand that we're right there.
Yep.
And that we're able to compete. I think when you look at Missouri Baptist over the years, it used to be, as we were building, that we just didn't have the athletes to compete.
Right.
We have them at certain spots. We've got to continue to fill that in, as we move forward. But we're right there. We can compete. Our league is very, very has a lot of parity to it, and anybody can win on any given weekend. So this is our weekend to go knock them off. I know it's homecoming up there, and it's our turn to go out and play a great game and upset them on homecoming.
Well, we know you can do it because last year, like I said, you played them wire to wire last year at their place. And, okay, so it's homecoming. It's okay. Nothing wrong with spoiling their homecoming with a Spartan victory.
No, I mean, that to me sounds like a great deal. I know these guys, we talk about it all the time, go paint a brick, because we're going to hang and paint bricks on the wall for every top 25 team that we win, and we want to go paint a brick, and that's our mindset and our goal this week.
All right, sounds like a new hashtag to me. So we want to thank you for watching the Coaches Show. I am Guy Danhoff. Obviously, Coach B, want to wish you all the best as you guys travel up to Bourbonnais, Illinois to take on Olivet. Game time will be at noon, and we thank you for watching right here on the Spartan Digital Network.